Hi there. It's Michael Osinski.
And it's also Tyler Esselman.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11, our podcast. A podcast about music, where we invite someone on each week to make their case for what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect, in fact, that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
Having a great time in Chicago and doing some more in-person recordings to kick off our 7th season. If you've stuck with us for 7 seasons, then we're clearly doing something right.
I like the number 7.
It's a very serious number. It's serious. It's a heavy-duty number. It's pregnant with meaning.
You said duty.
Anyway, we've got a great episode ahead for you. We are talking to one of my best friends in the entire world, Michael. Who are we talking to today?
We are talking to the inimitable Jack Schultz. Jack was Tyler Esselman's roommate from 2014 to 2020 and benefited from Tyler's Midwest charm, cleanliness, and Tyler almost constantly walking around in the buff. Jack is the owner of Green Shirt Studio and co-founder of Chicago Actors Staffing. When he isn't working, you can find him climbing at First Descent with his lovely wife, Alison, or walking his angry wiener dog, Kermit. Jack Schultz, welcome to This One Goes to 11.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me. And it's true, Tyler. There's so much that I benefited from and living with you for all those years. So
yeah, especially the in the buff part, right?
It's like I was like, ooh.
The tough part was that the neighbors didn't have blinds for a while, and so there was a lot of Tyler put on some clothing.
Just a little bit,
not too much.
We all knew the score.
Free show, like what are they complaining about? Sold tickets.
It was a magical. I mean, Jack, you and I talk about this a lot. It was a magical, formative time in which we lived together in Chicago, in both Lakeview and up in Rogers Park. It set a lot of things in motion for me in my heart and my mind, and I'm grateful for that timely. Oh God, this is gonna get emotional, isn't it? Anyway, one of the things that we shared a lot was a Sonos Bluetooth speaker.
Yes,
we shared that quite closely in that apartment, and one of the most common features on that Sonos Bluetooth speaker was a man, and he's a myth. And he's a legend. He's one of the musicians of your heart. Jack, tell us, what album hast thou brought before the This One Goes to 11 tribunal today?
I have brought Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run.
The Boss.
Never heard of it.
No?
Never heard of it.
Not familiar?
No, I'm unfamiliar. Yeah.
It's hard to believe that anyone may not know who Bruce is, but we have to work on the assumption that maybe one person out there listening to this podcast doesn't know who Bruce Springsteen is and doesn't know about the legendary album Born to Run. So I think we have just the thing for those people. Michael, what is that thing called?
It's called The Beginner's Guide to Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run in 60 Seconds.
And I'm doing it today. How do you feel about the fact that I'm doing it, Jack?
I feel great about it. I'm excited to hear.
Okay.
You get to evaluate his case too.
So in case you forgot, this now is the part where it starts getting competitive. And so you need to start thinking about making a really strong case.
Right.
And you get this opportunity to kick things off where you get to assess me. So
that's how we take some pressure off our guests.
Yeah.
Well,
we get nervous first so that you can feel less nervous.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll disarm you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I got 60 seconds on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1. Go.
They may call denim on denim a Canadian tuxedo, but no one has ever looked more American in a pair of blue jeans than one Mr. Bruce, the Boss, Springsteen. Born and raised in the Garden State, New Jersey, you can quite fairly call Bruce that great state's favorite son. He was a loner growing up who became bewitched hearing Sinatra and Elvis on the radio and TV, and this led him to procure his first guitars and take up arms with a smorgasbord of rock and roll journeymen across his home region. These early connections would eventually grow into the legendary E Street Band, so inextricably connected to Springsteen's name. Bruce & Co.'s third LP, Born to Run, is significant for its sweeping scope, concentration of bangers, and cohesive message of working-class humanity and solidarity. A Springsteen is a Dutch word for a jump stone or stepping stone, and Born to Run was the Springsteen Bruce needed to catapult him to the mega stardom he has borne for the last 50 years. He's sold more than 140 million records around the world, and he sold his catalog for $550 million in 2021, the most ever at the time. The Boss simply is American rock and roll.
All right.
Suck it, Tyler. Suck it there at the end.
So, Jack, what do you think? And you can, evaluate Tyler on whatever scale you choose. It could be, I don't know. I mean, like dear listeners, we are recording this during the Olympics. So this could be awarded in medals. This could be, you could do a simple A to F scale. Like,
What do you think? How'd I do?
Tyler, I think it was impeccable. So a word that you used, a word like journeyman, really stuck out to me. And I think that is, in my mind, part of why I love Springsteen so much, is that he like worked with all these different people and like discovered what it meant to be in a band and how he wanted to play his music. And it never felt like it was about him, but it was about like contributing to this larger whole that he got to be a part of. So that's something that you struck really well, that I think I got to give you a gold medal, Tyler.
Gold medal.
I don't think I could give you anything else.
Oh, thank you.
Watch out, Simone Biles.
Yeah, watch out, Simone. I'm coming for you. I hope to treat him with the proper amount of reverence for your the personage that I know he is for you. But so let's take it back to you. Like I think I could wax poetic about you for days to weeks on end. I would love to know a little bit more from your perspective, kind of like what role music plays in your life, how it lives with you on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think, coming on to this podcast, thinking a lot about that, and my relationship to music, it's crunchy in a way. Like I think a lot of people just get to love music and feel really like wrapped by it and get to like feel excited about music. I've felt really self-conscious about music a lot of my life. Like I think growing up, I was just really like taught what to love, like what music to listen to, like by my dad or my older brother. Like it just felt like they knew what was cool, and I was just trying to like trail behind them. Springsteen was probably like the first artist I discovered in like college, where I was like, oh, like I had never heard this before, and I love this. Like this means a lot to me. And he was still, Springsteen was still kind of like of my dad's era. But my dad never introduced me to Springsteen or like quizzed me about Springsteen.
Sure.
Like it was just like Springsteen got to be like mine. And yeah, I'm somebody who I just go back to the same albums over and over again. Like I don't discover music very easily, except when I lived with you in Nube. You all were always listening to music that it's like, oh, that's cool. Like I'll listen to that.
Yeah.
But since, like Alison now, she is a musician. She plays music at Renaissance fairs. So I get to travel a little bit with her and listen to new music in that way. Yeah, I always feel like I'm missing out on something when it comes to music, which I don't know how many of your guests have like felt that way. Or
I think you're in good company with that sentiment, because there is this voraciousness about a lot of the people that we have on. I think there's something about people who love music as it is like a really easy vehicle for novelty. If you're the kind of being that craves to have some sort of like new sensation layered over top of you, then music I find is a really good way to do that, a really convenient way to do that, because it's so accessible to us now, especially.
What was your family listening to? Like, what were the things that were playing when you were growing up that were maybe always on, or just in the car, or that sort of thing?
My dad was somebody who, like, he went to Woodstock. Like,
I think this is the first person. I think it was the first time we've had someone who knows someone who went to Woodstock on the podcast. So
I didn't know that about him.
Point.
Yeah.
Good for you, Gary.
Yeah, like that's something he talked a lot about growing up, like the bands he saw there, and somebody who, like, he told these stories about like working security at this like venue in New Jersey where he grew up. So it was like, I was like feet away from Meatloaf, like, like that, he, like, my mom and him, like, they went on like some of their first dates at, I can't remember, like, he would be mad that I can't remember, but these just like classic rock bands that I then grew up listening to. Like Billy Joel was always playing in my house.
That was a connection I was going to make here, is that I think there's some very strong connection between Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen.
Agreed. So, and then my brother was always trying to get outside the box. Like he loved listening to like Primus and
Andrew, yes.
Then went through like a bluegrass kind of phase that I was very confused by, because I just like didn't really understand. In my house, and something too, like I got like a Queen album when I was very young, and that was something that I like listened to over and over and over again. But yeah, I think like I always felt really self-conscious about my music choices. Like I was afraid that it wasn't going to be cool enough, or like
Yeah.
there was wrapped up in my like with my masculinity too, where I was like afraid that like this wasn't going to be like manly enough, that the music
Yeah.
choices that I was interested in was just like, not something that my like these older male figures in my life were gonna approve of.
That's legit. I think a lot of the music that I listened to in my late teens and early 20s was there was an element of masculinity tied up in it, whether it was kind of like the sad boy thing that is well documented. I've talked about. It's all out there, guys. It's like the sad boy thing, or like sort of we talk a lot about accessing anger through music, and how for men that's really the ways in which we do that through whether it's heavy music like metal, or like whether it's music that reminds us of our dads. Like it's all very fraught and like can be therapeutic, I guess, if you want to look at it in that way. Maybe it should or shouldn't be.
I don't know. I may have said this on the podcast before, but I do think that regarding masculinity, when I took an interest in Janet Jackson, such that I had a poster on my wall, I think my parents were a little relieved because they thought, oh, clearly he likes Janet Jackson and maybe he likes her in other ways. But what they didn't realize is that she was my first gay icon. And so,
sorry, mom and dad.
But I can understand that, because I never I also felt like real pressure. Do you guys remember? I don't know if they were rap or hip hop or how they would classify themselves. Mm-hmm. The band Snap. You know one song by them, and it's called "The Power," as in "I've got the power."
Oh yeah, yeah.
So like that was.
I've never known the name of the band, but I know the song.
I remember like 5th or 6th grade, and like kids really liked that band, and I felt like, oh, I guess I have to like it. But they had an explicit label on the albums. My parents wouldn't let me get it, and I felt like I was missing out. But it also sort of like, do I actually like this album? I don't know. Am I just liking it because other people like it?
Yeah.
The pressure of the sort of music you like, I feel that it's real.
I want to speak to that bluegrass thing real quick. I do find that this is a trend where particularly, I don't know, I find a lot of people in my life have gone through like a bluegrass revival in their later lives, where they were like, oh, I've gotten really into folk music in my 30s or whatever. I feel like this is a trend that I've recognized. And some people that we know have been that way the whole way through. Casey Morris, friend of the pod, is one who's bluegrass through and through.
Sure.
Yeah. But I noticed that trend as well, that some people come to it later on.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned a little bit of the sort of your own discovery, but I guess I'm wondering what prompted you to discover this album, and like when you discovered it, what was the explosion that went off in your brain? Like what was it that really like made this yours?
So I had barely listened to Bruce Springsteen when I went to my first concert at Wrigley Field.
Oh, nice.
Okay, wait, was this your first concert ever?
Oh, sorry. Well, it might have been my first like superstar rock star concert. Okay. I haven't been to many of them,
but it was Bruce at Wrigley. Okay.
Bruce at Wrigley Field.
Okay.
Big deal.
Yeah.
And I went by myself.
Bold move.
And it's definitely the only concert I've ever been to by myself, because I was going through a challenging time. It was 2012, and the year previously, or just earlier that year, because it was in the fall of 2012 that I went to it was October 2012. Like 6 months before that, I got cut from the theater school at DePaul University. Shout out theater school.
Shout out theater school.
And my high school drama teacher had a big poster of Bruce Springsteen on his door.
What was his name?
Brian Phillips.
Shout out Brian Phillips.
And he was my high school drama teacher was a huge inspiration to me, and I would sit outside his door waiting to go in to like talk to him for meetings or whatever, and I would just look at this big poster of Bruce Springsteen and think like, who's that guy? I don't know who that is. Like, Mr. Phillips likes him, so I should probably check him out someday. And I was very sad in the fall of 2012, and I didn't have a lot going on that I felt good. So I saw that he was coming to Wrigley Field, and I thought, why not? I'll pay $100 to, go sit very far away. And it was amazing. Yeah, like it was such an amazing night of empowerment to see someone up there having so much fun, just being able to like blow everybody's minds. Everyone was so excited. I don't think I had been in a stadium full of people before that were so incredibly just hooked on everything he was doing.
Was it like 4 hours long?
It was 4 hours long. It was raining at one point.
Really?
Chugged a beer in the rain. It was so cool. There was a tribute to Clarence Clemens because he had recently died like a few
big
years
guy.
before. And I didn't know who that was, but I was still like, wow, this is so cool that he's using this opportunity, this show to honor his friend in this way. At that moment, Springsteen for me became a hook, a step towards, oh, I can do this. Like, I can live this life that I have in a way that I am going to be happy. I'm going to be able to get back on the train because this guy is just going crazy. Like he's killing it. And why can't I? Like, why can't I do something to maybe not like be a rock star, but at least like have a drive for something.
Yeah. The greater creative spirit.
Yeah. So then I just like started listening to Born to Run and his other albums on repeat because it just kind of continued to fuel that sense of like, no, I can do it. I can.
Yeah. So in terms of your knowledge of his music walking into that, was it that you might have known a song or two, you might have been able to name a song or two at that point, but really you were just kind of diving into a lot of music, 4 hours worth of music that you did not know.
By myself.
By yourself.
Yeah.
As a 19-year-old.
Yeah, my only reference point was Mr. Phillips loves this guy. So I'm going to give this a chance. And like, what else am I doing?
Do you feel like lyrically you could understand what he was saying at that concert?
Some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thread that gets pulled through a lot of his music around needing to get out of town and go into the world and like tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. Like, that idea felt so accessible and so necessary for me.
Yeah.
The E Street Band was also just amazing.
Yeah.
Like the way that they were able to back him up and be so a part of the music through every song, like the saxophone solos, and it just meant so much.
The band, I mean, also just they strike me as like a perfect example of when you have a bunch of talented musicians who have been together that long that like it's just unspoken, the connection. Like you don't need if someone does something slightly different, it's like the whole organism just like morphs like without even thinking about it to adapt to whatever that situation is because they just all are so in tune that they're like one mind almost, and not in like a freaky cult sort of way.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
the artistry of it always just really blown my mind from from that concert through. I've seen him one other time.
Where was that one?
Where do the Bulls play?
United Center.
At the United Center.
Oh, okay.
Guess the funny thing about how it found you in that moment in your life is that probably like this archetypal story that Bruce has of being, like, because you go back and read about him and he kind of came up at a time when there were all these different like kind of trains of rock and roll that were happening, like the British invasion was happening. There was also the kind of like blues stuff that was happening. And he really, in a way that it feels like only Bruce can, he found his path like kind of right down the middle. Like he kind of went through all these things and it feels like he absorbed so many different things that were happening in rock and roll at the time without seeming inauthentic about it. It has always seemed like he almost is a genre unto himself. He established something that is uniquely American and uniquely Bruce.
Well, even listening to it, like to hear you talk about like tramps like us sort of situation, listening to it now, I mean, I'd heard most of this album in the past, but listening to it today, I'm thinking like tramps like us. Like, was Bruce Springsteen ever, or was he ever like an outcast? And so I was like, wait a minute, like, because when I think of Springsteen now, I think of him as being like he's the boss, right?
Sure.
He's like he's cool. He's like a lot of people love him. He's like inherently American, which is also in a
not a gross way though,
right? In a progressively political sort of way, which a lot of people, I think, probably some of his fans choose to ignore.
Sure,
but he did struggle because now I think of him as being like huge. I mean, he's a billionaire now, right? Like I think of him as being this huge success. But like looking back on the album and how he started, he was the underdog. All of the songs from this album are about that.
Yes. You're not going to be able to listen to the whole track right now. It's the new thing.
Thanks, Spotify.
Thanks, Spotify. But we still we still want to give Jack an opportunity to articulate for us what his standout track is from Born to Run. So Jack, tell us what did you choose as your standout track from the album?
I chose 10th Avenue Freeze Out, which Tyler, you and I feel like have a very particular relationship to this song.
Yeah.
I just have a lot of memories of being in our living room, listening to the song on the Sonos speaker and just being really stupid and not knowing what it meant, but being able to like sing it and dance and just have a really great time. Just it's pure fun.
Right. So here, everybody, check this out. This is just a little taste of 10th Avenue Freeze Out, so you can get an idea of what Jack's talking about. Here you go.